Um, Item B, is there any changes to the agenda?
No, not for me.
Okay, hearing none, it's approved as distributed. Item C, approval of last month's Finance Committee meeting minutes.
Looks good to me, John.
Okay, we'll send that to board consent if there's no changes. Item D, again, please forgive me, I can't see what's going on in the meeting. Is there anybody from the public that's on or in the room?
There is not.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to item E, the financial statements, and we'll start with the month of November unaudited financial statements, and that's pages 6 through 17.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. We're looking at the statistics first. And as you can see, all our volumes are pretty much below budget. We're about 39 days, patient days below budget on the inpatient. And our length of stay is a little bit higher than usual, but that's okay for 1 month, 4.2. And then our long-term care days are a little bit over budget, and a lot higher than last year. If you can see, it's about 175 over budget from over last year's number. So that's a good thing. We're getting pretty close to having consistent 48. We go up and down a little bit, but it's pretty close to 48. And this month is the same thing. Also, this month, our acute days are above budget. The only thing not this month, and I'm talking December now, is our RHC is a little bit below budget, but our volumes have picked up in December. If we go to ER visits, they are above last year, but still below budget. And we are percentage of ER visits admitted is 2.72. I mean, if the ER visits are down, our admits are probably going to be down too, and that's the case here. We go to outpatient visits. They are also a little bit below budget, a little bit above last year.
Outpatient visits are above budgets.
Above outpatient.
935.
Yeah, I was looking in total.
Okay.
There's pretty close to budget. It's pretty close. And then our retail pharmacy scripts above budget, above prior year, but below prior month. I don't know if we've reached a peak there, Tim. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but it seems to me maybe we've reached a peak and they're starting to come back down.
Yeah, I think there's probably still a little bit more transfers going back and forth, but I think it's finally beginning to stabilize a little bit. There is some fluctuations, but not like it used to be.
Okay, which is, I mean, we're still very high. 4,800 is very high. We've only budgeted 3,400, and that was an increase from last year of about 20%. So we are way ahead of where we were last year, which is a good thing. And you'll see that in the revenues also, but you also see it in the expenses too. And then we also now have our expenses are probably going to be higher in the supplies in December because we're making up for the refrigerator problem. We're gonna have to refurbish. We're gonna have to refurbish that inventory of about 82,000, or we don't know what the amount is quite yet, but somewhere in that range, I think. And we will probably get reimbursed by our insurance by some of that, maybe half of it. I think I have to look what our deductible it is, but I believe it's probably 50 grand. That's what it usually is. So we'll get some of that back. Okay, going FTEs, we are 1.27 over what we budgeted. And we're over over last year's November, but a lot of that over last year is our CNAs in the SNF unit because they are employees now and not registry. Our paid FTEs are below budget, which is a good thing. Okay, any questions on the statistics?
Any questions for John?
Nope.
Okay, we'll go to the next page. We'll go to 2 pages after that. We'll go to the balance sheet for the 5 months ended November 30th, 2024. The thing that really sticks out is the line number 2, cash all sources are down by about $4 million, but that $4 million is our IGT contribution. And the good thing is we just received $6 million back on Friday, which accounts for half of that. the 2.1 million goes of the 4 million we paid, 2.1 million goes to Kern family, 1.2 goes to HealthNet, and then this I found out today, 675,000 of that goes to the state directly. What happens to that money, nobody knows. But they make 200 to 300 million on this project every year.
They take their 10% cut handling.
Yeah, which is nice for them. Yeah. Okay. So that's why our cash went down so much, but it'll get replenished in December. The thing that really is different here is our AR is down, way down. It's about $1.5 million down. We are continuing to look at our accounts and try to get it down. The days only went down by 1 because our revenues are down, which is part of the calculation. But we are looking at long-term care. I have a meeting with Debbie this afternoon to try to go over them again before month end to see where we are. But we are collecting money, and it's just we are still having some problems with the long-term care as far as there's some issues in the share of costs. And when those bills are going out, and then the money we're getting in from them, people are getting bills late. But we are working on to try to get a standardized process for all our patients in the long-term care. As you see, line 8 there, other receivables, that went up by $4 million because that's the $4 million that we sent out to IGT. That is treated as a receivable when the money goes out. It'll come back again. The $6 million will go. Part of it will go against that receivable, and part of it will go to income. Because whatever's not against, it'll go to against contractuals. That's really where we record it. It's a reduction of contractual adjustments because what they're trying to do is make up for the money we're not getting paid for. Let's see. Our project fund, we have that's line 20. We have a $578,000 payment on January 27th. So that's every 6 months we pay that, so that bond fund that you see on the liabilities of 9.6 million will come down 500,000. It'll come $500,000 more 6 months from now. So we've got about 9 years left, 8.5 years left to pay off that the bonds. We did that. We added a little bit of assets, but not a whole lot. A little bit, as you see, $20,000 of construction in progress and about 52,000 in equipment. Then the next page, we see accounts payable is a little bit up for November. However, it's a lot of timing. We just paid JTS about 366,000. So our AP at 12/27 was 1.3 million, which is way down. We were trying to slow down our payments a little bit because of the $4 million going out. Even though our cash position is still very strong, when we have that much money going out, we try to slow down the other out expenditures if we can. And we don't want to make any of our vendors mad, but we still I think we pay pretty quickly most of the time. We just try to slow it down a little bit just so our cash doesn't go down a whole lot more. Let's see, bonds we talked about. Long-term settlements, no. Okay, that's about it on the any questions on the assets or liabilities on the balance sheet?
The one on the auxiliary, the auxiliary, we've got that as funds, that's held up for, not held up, what do you call that?
Restricted.
Restricted.
Funds. And also,
how are they restricted? What's the restriction?
Just that they get to approve what they want to spend those for. So, I mean, technically they sit on our books, but the way we've historically done that is if a manager wants to go and get a piece of equipment or whatever, they have to present that to the auxiliary board, and then the auxiliary votes.
We still have an auxiliary board and everything.
It's really not.
We're taking them over.
Yeah, it's not really a board.
Yeah, it's not really anything. It's just like the pharmacy now.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, so
Anyway, that's just the way that funding is.
That's the way it has been, but we should look at correcting it.
We probably need to
because it's almost like a piggy bank for somebody.
Yeah.
Not.
Well, I mean, it's still our money and stuff.
Yeah,
we just allow them.
They're not like the foundation.
I know.
Yeah.
They're just more
aware.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
And one other thing to keep in mind is the auxiliary cash and the debt payment fund are not included in that 12 million up on top there.
right.
because we can't really use those. So that's why. Okay, any other questions on that?
No.
Okay, we'll go to the current month income statement, November. Since all of the volumes were down, you can see that our gross revenue is also below budget. It's higher than last year, but we got to keep in mind that we have a 4% increase in charges, and that accounts for most of that. Our contractual allowances are down a little bit, just because I think we're collecting a bigger percentage. I also just brought back a little bit of the reserves in there too. So as you can see, our deductions from revenue went down. They should be about 70%. We budgeted 73. We collect, after everything, we collect about 30% of gross revenues. We are doing a pretty good job on expenses, especially in our salaries and fringe benefits. We are under budget on that for the month and for the year. I think a lot of that has to do with we're taking a really good look at OT, and that's keeping that saves us a lot. If we keep the OT down, we'll be under budget most of the year. As I see, our contract labor jumped up a little bit because we're short nurses, I think, Mark. That's basically where it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We are trying to get nurses, but if we don't have them, we've got to pay for them in contract labor. There's just no other way around it. The place we are, as usual, over is in supplies. And of that 157, 142 of it is for the retail pharmacy. But you can also see 152 extra in revenues. As we talked about before.
John, just one. I think we have a contract labor person in physical therapy, and we also have one in lab, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we do.
And so there are a couple of the higher dollar individuals in those two areas as well.
Right.
Okay. So, I mean, that's another reason our payroll is under budget too, because we have them in contract labor. Okay. Any questions here?
Are we still able to make a profit with having contract labor in such a small move?
So I think the one in PT, absolutely yes. I can't answer the one about the ancillary service of lab, and you can't charge for nursing care. So I'm not sure that you can quantify that either as far as profit and loss.
Okay.
But if you don't have a nurse there, you don't have any profit. So
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and the PT, like you said, Gene, that's true. If we don't have a PT person, our physical therapy revenue is high. So that's helping that. It's still a profitable situation, I think, even though we're paying a lot for the contract labor. Any other questions on this income statement, the monthly income statement?
No, not for me, John.
Okay, year to date now, we're looking at year to date now. Our gross revenues are higher than last year and higher than budget, mainly because of we got a 700,000 in retail pharmacy, which is most of our increase. Everything else kind of is a wash. If you look at outpatient revenue, kind of washes with the other ones. Our outpatient revenue is higher because our ER revenue is higher. And we've got some outpatient visits that volume is higher for the year. So I think that's really where it's making up for our inpatient deficit.
Wow.
Our expenses are less than 1% over budget, which is pretty good. And if it wasn't for the supplies expense, we'd be under budget, because you see about 810,000 in supplies, and of that, about 700,000 is retail pharmacy. Where we are, Tim and I have a meeting with the 340B attorney on next week. We are trying to get to the bottom, and we're working with Michael also to try to see if we are really realizing the effects of the 340B program. I don't think we are. Tim doesn't think we are. I think we need to do a little more work there, because I don't think we're realizing the savings in the supply expense that we should be. We're talking about bringing somebody in that's going to go over every transaction, just be like a clerk person for maybe a month or two, just to kind of look at every transaction, make sure that part of the issue, I think, Tim, also is we're not we are utilizing the GPO more than we're using the 340B on some of these purchases.
That's what that report showed the other day.
Yeah.
From my perspective, that's how I read it.
Yeah, and that makes sense because our inventory for GPO purchases is actually in a negative position. So I think mostly it's maybe bookkeeping partly, but I think part of it's also how we're ordering things, and that's what we really need to get to the bottom of.
Yep.
And that's where our policies and procedures will come in place that we're going to get from the attorney. The attorney should provide us with these policies and procedures, which will help us make this program a lot better because I just don't think we're realizing the benefits that we should be realizing from this. Everything else there is pretty good, especially our salary and wages is real good under budget. Our insurance expense is a little bit over, but that we had an increase that we didn't budget for. We got it after the budgeting process, I believe. And then we also have a new insurance that we're going to purchase, but it's only about $5,000. Any questions on the year-to-date financial statements?
Well, I mean, year to date, John, it looks like it's doing quite well. I mean, a lot of the targets were actually almost hit, but we actually exceeded expectations this particular month year to date. And we were almost on target from last year's year to date. But anyway, that's my observations anyway.
Okay. We are still working on the audit. Once the audit is completed, we'll have some adjusting entries, which will probably increase our income from last year, the year to date, June 30th, 2024. I want to make sure that the audit is complete before we start really doing any of that. But some of these, there's going to be some reclasses done. I think we're actually better off than we really are showing right now because we haven't brought in the IGT money that much yet. And that's going to be a positive hit to our financial statements. Right now it's on the balance sheet. I'll bring some of it over to the income statement as the auditor and I see fit.
The cost of the audit this year,
42,000.
42, I thought it was 45.
I think it was 42 plus expenses, I think. So it probably will be about 45. But I think the initial contract was 42.
We're using the same company, JT, whatever it is.
JWT and Associates, yes.
A different person.
That's
a different partner. Yeah, they're all partners, but he's a different partner. He's someone I've worked with for the last 15 years or so. He's good. What we need to decide is whether we're going to continue with JWT or we're going to go to somebody else. Do we want to he gave us a 1-year contract with a 1-year option. We could go to Whipley or somebody else, take bids again for a different person. It's just whatever the board thinks, really. If you guys are happy with these guys, they're
I think
good.
you wanted to try a different person.
Yeah,
Just
a few years ago it was 24,000. Now, but everything's going up.
Right.
Well,
And they're a good company, but we want to make sure that we're prudent and looking into
Well,
what a reasonable thing to do is. But, yeah,
I think
Sounds
another
cool.
company, if we get Whipley, they will probably be a little bit more expensive. I also think they'll probably do a more thorough audit of the financials. But that's something we can talk about, and we don't have to make that decision today.
we don't want them to look at the books.
Well, they have different approaches. JWT is a more high level approach than Whipley. Whipley really digs into the detail of all this. Not to say one's better than the others, but I think our books are in good shape. It's just, do we want to change and have another set of eyes look at it? I mean, we changed partners, sure, but it's still the same company, and they still approached audits in probably the same way. But we could, okay. Let's see what else. Yeah, we're working on the audit right now. It's not quite done yet. It should be done. I'm hoping by the next meeting, by the next month. Gerald, who's the partner, is working on some of the things we gave him. We owe him a little bit more things. We're doing a little analysis of the settlement accounts, he and I, and hopefully we get through that by next week. And then we'll make some adjustments, and then we can have. Do you guys want him to present at the board meeting, or do we just want to have it's up to you, Gene and John?
We normally present at the board meeting, right, John?
Yeah, they can do.
Yeah, well, typically they do the presentation. Once it's done, and then the board will can answer or ask questions, and then just an approval to receive and file.
Okay. Yeah, he was planning on coming down.
If he doesn't want
lives
to come
in
in
Fresno.
person, I'm sure we could do it over Zoom if he wants to do it remotely. I think we've done that before too.
Okay. He's just in Fresno. He's not that far away.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on the financials?
No, not for me.
No.
Thank you.
And then, John, did you want to do the narrative summary on page 18, or is that just information only?
That's basically what I just said. You're talking about the narrative, the financial. Yeah, that's really what I just said.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. We
The
can.
product line on page 19.
Oh, page 9. Yeah, let me get to that. Let's see. Gene, do you have any questions on that product line?
No,
No? Okay.
No, I like I said before, John, I'm glad to see this particular financial statement back in our finance meetings and for the board. I think it gives us a pretty good snapshot of what's each product line and department, how it's doing financially in the hospital. So thank you for bringing this back again.
Okay. The next question is, how often do you want me to update it? Monthly or quarterly?
What do you think, Gene?
it shouldn't be that much trouble to just do it monthly. When we start doing things quarterly, it sort of gets, well, my mind can't skip 3 months at a time and remember anything.
All right. No problem.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any particular questions on the product line analysis?
Not for me.
All right.
And keep in mind on that, the IGT is not reflected there.
Okay, good. So noted. Okay, the next item is the local vendor aging report that's on page 20.
Does anybody have any questions on the local vendors?
No, looks good. They're all paid. And
Okay.
some of them
Yeah.
are paid a little more than I thought, but I looked into it a little bit. Looks fine.
Okay.
With me.
Yeah, I didn't have any questions either, Amy. Okay, then we'll move on to new business. This is the contract renewal summary.
I got a few questions on that one.
It's on page 21.
I can see the dang things now. Okay. I think you answered one of my questions. Thrift store, it says the auxiliary pays it. The aid security. They don't have a separate set of books.
It comes out of the funds they raise. It's just the way they account for it. So,
We need to change that, Tim.
yeah.
It's just like the pharmacy now. We've taken them over. They don't run themselves. We run.
Right. No question. We
And
always,
so we're not running the books. Who's running the books?
we run the
who's-
books.
Okay.
We do. We've always
Okay.
run the
Are
books.
they in here
Yeah.
anywhere?
Yeah.
Okay, because in here it says the thrift store, the ADT, security.
Yeah.
Is paid by the auxiliary. Is it paid by them or we pay it?
I believe it's a charge to their account. So it comes out, it's like almost like a cost center associated for Amy would be the best one to answer that question.
No, they take care of it. And they send us their reports monthly.
So
It comes out of their bank.
They write.
Can you send us a copy of their report?
I can see.
That's what I'm getting at is that we want to see if the money's going where it should be going.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
nobody's seeing it.
My wife used to do that for the auxiliary when she worked there. So they pay the trash bill. They pay their electric bill. They pay for the ADT security for the building security system. It's a few minor things. It's not a lot, but yes, that's then given to Amy, what they expend.
But if we could make it part of the report, because it's
Okay.
part of it is a hospital.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see how we can build it into it.
Okay.
And that might be good too, to not have them pay those bills. I don't know.
It's something we'll talk to John about.
Yeah.
I agree. That, let's see, there was one other one that, you were right, it says 42 right on there. My glasses look funny and big sometimes. The pest control, apparently it's a different company that specializes in the food department.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, that answers my question.
the local pest company did not have the knowledge and understanding and
Right.
certifications to do the indoor work. So we contract Oxley to do that, but they just do the kitchen dining area.
That's good. That could be a nightmare.
Yes.
That was my only questions.
I have a question. What is connection.com? Does anybody know what this is?
Where's the-
Activityconnection.com, activity programs for SNF residents.
Yeah, $6.25 a year.
Subscription service they provide to provide some kind of,
I let it go by.
Something Sally is managing. Sally should be here to answer the question.
I let it go by because I thought you looked at it.
Well, I saw the Google
It's an
YouTube
annual
music
fee.
too, down there, a couple things down. and I
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these things, so, I mean, if there's a department that's using a specific service, oftentimes that will be billed to that department, and then
Yeah.
the department manager is, even if the contract is maybe done outside of them, they're still the ones who are saying, yes, continue the contract, or no, cancel it.
That'd be a good one to look at, to ask Sally.
I just know connection.com is like an IT, like,
it's a program of security. It's like a program for doing activities for them, for games and things like that.
it's helps.
Probably a
I have no mic, but, oh, Sally's gonna get back to, Sally Emery said she'll get back to me. Or us. And then this AHT e-prescribe, we canceled that. That went away when AHT went live.
Okay, so we replaced them, Carrie? We replaced them with whom?
Yeah, it's all part of the point click care fees. That's all bundled in.
Oh, good, okay, that's even better.
You want this one removed, Carrie,
Yeah, I can be. And Sally's aware of that too. I sent her an email
Okay.
a week ago or so.
Bob, I had a question on the Kern County Public Health Services EMS. What is this one, just for my FYI? I see the effective date actually started back in 2006, but I'm just curious what this is.
I'm not seeing it. What am I?
It's,
Or in the middle.
I think it's the mass casualty trailer.
it is the mass casualty.
That's the trailer out.
Trailer out
Yeah.
across the street.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, that one. Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, so there's no cost. In other words, that's as long as we continue to be involved with EMS on their quarterly meetings and stuff. Those trailers are supplied for free. There's no cost. And each year we can put in requests for additional supplies that we can put in the trailer. We haven't received any in a couple of years, but we have in years past. But yeah, there's really no cost involved, but that's what it is. It's the emergency trailer supplied to each of the hospitals of Kern County.
And they respond to us whenever we have when we had the Burrell fire, they
Right.
offered us air handlers, air washers, scrubbers for the hospital.
Yep.
Yeah.
For smoke containment things. So they are available to us all the time and it's no cost. So.
Okay, thank you.
The very last one on there, I thought, well, it's waste disposal. Apparently it's food. And maybe Thomas doesn't take food, or what's the deal?
It's not.
Oh, this is
It's-
not.
No, Stericycle is
Oh, okay.
biohazard waste,
Okay,
biohazard pharmaceutical waste.
okay, all of that.
Yeah,
syringes
picked
and all
up
that kind of
twice
stuff.
a week.
Okay, cool. Still expensive.
Oh, it is. Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
So with the exception of the one that Carrie wanted taken off, is everybody else okay with sending these contracts to board consent?
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Well,
Okay,
figuring out what that connection.com thing, I think is important too. What that is.
okay. do you want to hold that one too and just?
Let's leave it on.
Just figure out what the answer is.
Correct, yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll try to get an answer before the board meeting in January if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next items on the agenda are the construction invoices. So Bob, I'll let you go through these if you have any input or questions on them.
Yeah, so the first one on 21, 22 and 23, that is an invoice from our architect for the construction supervision on the emergency generator project. So in other words, we've had to do a couple of change orders and had some plans drawn and submitted for, issues that we have found as the work is going on. So this is what is called construction management, which is above and beyond the original contracted price to draw the plans.
So it's just 9,400.
Yes, the total is $9,452. That's the first one. The next one is material testing and inspections by Soils Engineering. The testing lab that tests anchor bolts and stuff have to be contracted by the hospital, cannot be paid for by the contractor or the architect. So we contract with Soils Engineering. They come out and do the torque testing of the anchor bolts, and that one was for $335.20. But that one is against the electrical generator project. And then the third one is an invoice also from Soils Engineering, but it's against the boiler project for testing all the anchor bolts and the anchorage to the structure of all of the piping. And so that was $425.20. That's probably the only invoice we're going to see on the boiler project, but there will be some ongoing ones still on the electrical generator project. And then the next one is from the architect, Red Ink Architects, on the boiler. And I believe this is their final invoice. The contracted price with them was $67,000. This invoice is $3,350, which puts them 100% complete on that project, and we are in process of closing that project with Oshkosh.
I just ask what it's withhold for the.
There's not withholdings.
Yeah.
Withholdings are all with the contractor.
Yeah.
So we do not have withholdings from the architect.
Okay.
And then the next one is the JTS boiler project, and so. So the contract sum was $297,500, and this particular invoice puts them at, I believe it's 100% except for retainage, and I am holding with retainage until the project closes with Oshkosh. So this particular invoice was for $22,838. And how you can tell is when you look on page like 33 and 34, if you look at that on the work completed, column E for this period. So they're billing $1,050 on general conditions, $1,800 in supervision, $3,000 for closeout documents, which I have in my office, and $10,000 on the insulating of all the piping, $240 on controls, $2,700 on controls equipment, $5,250 on startup, and all of that work is complete. So before any of these come to this committee or to the board, I myself and the inspector of record verify that the work that they're asking to be paid for has been completed. And you'll see our signatures on page 32 that we have cleared that work has been done. So that's how we know whether we're on budget or they can't bill for more than the contracted amount unless there is a change to the project, which can be a found condition during construction or something. But at this point, we don't have any change orders. As you can see, net change by change orders is still zero.
Who signs off on the change orders, Bob? You do?
I do.
Okay.
if there are any, and we don't have any.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so that one is the one for the boiler project from JTS. The next one, I'm sorry, wait a minute, hold on. I made this mistake. That may have been a misstatement. Nope. Okay, we have 2 invoices on the boiler project from JTS. That was the first one, starting on page 31. And then on 36, there's a second invoice from JTS on the replacement of the boiler. It's application number 8. The previous one was application number 7. And so my statement of they're paid to date minus retainage is actually applicable to number 8. So retainage is still $14,875 that we are holding until project closes with Oshkosh. So you can see the contracted sum was $297,500. Total completed to date is $297,500 minus retainage, which we still owe, which will be one last invoice on this project. And then starting on page 41 is the big ticket item, which is JTS on the generator project. This particular invoice is for $629,327.50. Again, you can see the work completed this period is general conditions supervision. And then you get down into running remember a number of weeks ago, they pulled all the wire in. That's line item 65 for $320,000. The building D feeders, 162. And then the switch gear was craned in. You guys all saw the crane here, 102,000. Switch gear labor to set them. The tap box materials, 35,000. That's where everything connects at the yard out there. And so this will be one of our largest invoices because a lot of work happened during this time period. That period was expensive. Yes. You know,
When is this invoice due? When do they expect payment, Bob?
soon. They submitted this on November 20.
November 20, and we're at December 30. Okay,
Yeah,
so it's
so-
40 days.
Yeah, so we're fine to hold it for a bit. You know, they're not gonna get really excited. I mean, because you did pay them from the previous approved invoice.
Yeah.
Last week, so,
366,000, I think we paid, right, Amy? 366?
Yes.
yes, and that was a couple of, projects lumped together.
Three.
Yeah.
3, yeah. And, so this is probably our biggest one, single ticket that we're gonna see, more than likely anyway. And then the rest will be spread over December's billing, January's billing, February's billing, and we hope to be completed near the end of February. This project.
Okay.
So, yeah, unfortunately, we have done a lot of work in the last month and a half. And it's like, I mean, even the electrician commented to me, he's got $800,000 into our project that he has not been paid for at the moment. But he's the one big single thing because the whole project is electrical. So he's out of pocket $800,000, of which we just paid him about 300,000 last week,
Okay.
and the 600,000. So in other words, we're catching up. But yeah, this is
When he
the
goes to
project.
Vegas, he probably does the long shots.
Yeah. Currently, he is at his cabin in Lake Tahoe.
Oh.
He'll be back to work
Look
here.
at
He'll be back to work here next Monday morning. They'll be back starting to land all the wires and all the switchgear and getting ready to start doing. We're going to have 4 major shutdowns to the hospital to make this connections and make everything work again. And so we're figuring out all the areas that got to be shut down, completely shut off. I mean, skilled nursing facility, they have to be down for 3 to 4 hours, and it's 80% of all their electricity and all their heating and air conditioning. And
There's no way to
nope.
When, what's the communication like to let
Oh, I'll call you 5 minutes before saying.
I'm sure you will.
No, I've been mapping it all out because each of the cutovers, I'm mapping who it's affecting
Okay,
because it's affecting different areas. And I'll be putting out an email here shortly, once I know a little closer as to when it will happen. Right now, I know what needs to happen, who it's going to affect, and for how long. But I don't have dates to put to that yet.
We have something temporary that we could hook up if there was emergency, or we couldn't
Well,
complete that job. Like an
When-
extension cord from a,
yes. Well, in other words, okay, so for instance, we have to shut off a breaker in the electric vault that feeds through to a certain area of the facility. And then we have to literally cut the wires that are feeding that particular large box on the wall, about as wide as the TV and about that tall, down to the floor. So we cut the wires off. The new ones are already in the cabinet and they're hanging right there. So we cut the old ones, we yank them out of the lugs, we bend the other ones around and we land them in the lugs, and then we turn the power back on. And now the power is coming from a source that has an emergency generator backup versus before it didn't.
those are large wires. How many of them are there?
There's usually 3 of each phase, so it's 9 plus the ground. 9 wires, and they're bigger than about the size of my thumb. Yeah. So most of them will be fairly short, but he's put a window of 4 to 6 hours on a couple of them, but he really says it's probably going to take us 1 to 2.
Yeah, that was on the outside. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So I've been studying the single line diagram to determine areas affected for each one of these shutdowns.
Let's hope it's not a cold day when he does that.
Well, that's, yeah.
You can plan it, right?
Well, yes, and let's put it this way. If we have a really cold spell in February and we need heat and we're going to kill the heat,
Right,
obviously we're going to put it off.
right.
So those are the things I have to look at and evaluate and say, yes, we can pull the trigger, or no, we cannot.
Okay.
And this is going to be, it's major. I mean, there's one point where we're taking down the entire acute care building.
Got to do it
Got to do it.
because nobody's willing to do it when it's live power.
They will not do it live. Nope. Well, plus you can really mess things up. You have to shut it off, land all 3 phases of the 483 phase, and then turn it back on. Or what happens is what happened to that motor on Christmas.
Yeah, yeah.
It fried because it lost 1 phase.
Most people think you save half as much electricity, but you burn the motor up when you got 3 phase with 1 phase.
Yeah, that little oops on Christmas Day cost $1,000.
Okay, so Bob, these all need to go to consent, right? Because we don't have a board to approve these invoices that are
Right.
paid.
Right. And I mean, if anybody's got any questions, I'll be glad to.
Okay, we didn't go through the last one.
Well, the last one is also a JTS for the generator project.
Well, Greenbow's in there several times.
Okay, yeah,
I looked at it.
yeah, Greenbow was in there, I think once. Once, yes. The last one from, I'm sorry, there is, Greenbow is here on they're in there twice.
Yeah,
So that, and then both of them are for, this is for the, they applied, this one just got in by the skin of its teeth on December 23. So this is, again, construction management for Greenbow. I'm sorry. I'm seeing Greenbow here as the architect. I apologize. It's JTS. It's the JTS invoice
Both
with
contracts.
Greenbow
for an additional $273,090.
doing part of the work.
So the big ticket for JTS was when we landed all the switchgear and pulled all the wire in. That was the 600,000. Then there's this one for 273,980. This is for work that's happened since then of bolting all the equipment down and getting everything ready to wire in.
Now, you've got all the buildings segregated to where Greenbow, anything that's outside of the contract is billed separately and we can identify it.
Absolutely. If you look at the cover sheet on Greenbow, it falls under what's called construction management, because our contract with them is X amount of dollars to draw the plans, not to exceed. Construction management is time and material based upon their rates. And I monitor that closely.
Right.
Because they could throw an estimate at it and just say, okay, it's going to be $100,000 construction management for this generator project. And it might only be 80, so it's really better to do on construction management, just to go with time and material versus an estimate that they're going to make high to make sure they cover any change orders and various things that come along through the project.
Right. But under the contract, if we're at 1.2 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
If it ends up being 1.4, they eat the other 200,000 because
If
they contracted to do it.
Yes, if it's contracted work.
Right.
Where
That's what I'm
they
saying.
cannot, and I think there's been one time when I called Lynn and I said, hey, Lynn, you're charging me for, you're over budget.
Yeah.
And she looked at it and says, you're absolutely right. And she went back and corrected that invoice. So it did not exceed the contract price.
Okay, cool.
Yes,
I'm okay with those last two.
going to, okay,
Going to my
send it down.
Okay, so these are consent, okay. Okay, we will send those to consent for review and approval. Other than that, I believe we're adjourned at 1:47. I apologize again that I couldn't get my Microsoft Teams to work, but I'll try again next time when I'm remotely. So anyway, hope you guys all have a great New Year's, and see you soon.
One quick thing is, and it doesn't matter that much, but Sally did send me what that connection.com thing was for just a second ago, and it's just a calendar thing that they use to schedule resident events. So
Gotcha. Okay.
Is it worth it?
I wouldn't know, but I would assume so.
Okay.
$50 a month or whatever it's costing us.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do we have to leave, John?
What's that, Gene?
I said, do we have to leave now?
Well, a couple of us are going to hang around, but I don't think. You should probably go.
Thank you, John.
Okay, you guys have a good, happy New Year.
All right, you too.
See you, John.
All right, bye.